Hare Krishna, invocation prayers, please.
Yes, Prabhuji. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjalashalakaya Satguru Militam Vena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhityam Sthabinam Vyena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tatanti Swapatantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajadam Sargana Raghunanta Vitam Chachivam Satvaidam Savadudam Parijana Sakitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sargana Lalitam Sri Vishakamitam Cha Ye Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sudevi Param Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpagaru Vishya Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavaneshu Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vaishadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming. So today we will cover Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 11, verses 15 to 35, as well as Chapter 12, initial few verses. Let's begin with you all explaining one or more points and asking one or more questions from before.
Prabhuji, last time, summarize, this is my realization, summarize three Srila Prabhupada's comments when Manu instructs Dhruva how to properly treat other people in a way that pleases the Lord. My realization is that there are three stages of devotional life. One is lowest, then second stage, the third is Madhyama Adhikari, that is spiritual devotee. The lowest, a devotee is simply concerned with the deity. Worship the Lord with great devotion as per the rules and regulations. The second one, the devotee is aware of his relationship with the Lord. Fellow devotees, innocent and envious persons. The third one, the preacher shows mercy to the innocent and elevate them to Krishna consciousness. He is also aware that when one is ill-treated by the envious, the advanced devotee shows the tolerance. With the innocent, shows mercy and elevate devotional service. Because everyone is an eternal servant of God, awaken everyone's Krishna consciousness. With equals, maintain relationship. His general view see every living entity as part of the Supreme Lord and sees all living entities equally. Hence he is appreciated by the Supreme Lord. When the Lord is pleased, the result is you are free. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Just to clarify, in terms of the levels, so the lowest is Kanishta Adhikari, who is only concerned about worshiping Gopinath at the temple and does not value devotee association. So what Uncle mentioned as the second and third levels are actually the same level of Madhyamadhikari. So Madhyamadhikari knows Krishna as the object of my worship, makes friends with devotees, showers mercy on the innocent, and avoids atheist, and the third level, which is the highest level, is of Uttamadhikari, where who are generally spiritual masters.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I was also feeling that clarification to seek you have preempted. Thank you.
All right, rest of you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So in the previous chapter, one point which was re-emphasized again and again is simply by chanting the Maha Mantra, one can cross over the ocean of material existence. Just like Dhruv Maharaj, he was able to surpass all the illusory feats by the Yakshas, Prabhu. So when the sages arrive and they encourage Dhruv Maharaj and they tell him that there's no danger because he was a soul surrendered unto the Lord.
Okay, very good point. Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the solution.
Prabhuji, that is sarva Samatvena cha sarva atma. That is, it is advised that the advanced devotee should be tolerant and he should show complete mercy to person who are ignorant. And a preacher devotee is meant to show mercy to innocent person whom he can elevate to the devotional service. Everyone by constitutional position is an eternal servant to God. Therefore, the devotee's business is to awaken everyone's Krishna consciousness. Prabhuji.
Okay, very good points. Okay, we'll continue Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 11, verse 15 onwards. So Chapter 11 is titled Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruv Maharaj to stop fighting. So Dhruv Maharaj was fighting with the Yakshas and killing them all. Hence, Swayambhuva Manu arrives to stop Dhruv Maharaj from killing innocent Yakshas. And Swayambhuva Manu gives his reasons for Dhruv Maharaj to stop fighting. That Supreme Lord is the ultimate cause. Plus, Swayambhuva Manu asks Dhruv Maharaj to give up anger. So we'll continue from reading verse 15 onwards. Now, upon explaining the various reasons to not kill the Yakshas, Swayambhuva Manu saw that Dhruv Maharaj was still not satisfied because of his brother's death. Hence, Manu further explains that who is actually the killer and who is killed. So this is part 3, verses 15 to 26. Title is Understanding the Ultimate Cause as the Supreme Lord. Now, these verses will appear to go in circles. Yes, the verses talk about that the Lord is the cause, but they will appear that we are going in circles. So let's read one at a time, few at a time, and we'll discuss. So in verse number 15 and 16, with the discussion of creation, maintenance, and destruction, Dhruv Maharaj is advised not to be afflicted by his brother's death because bodily relations are only at material level. Chandran Prabhu will read chapter 11, verses 15 and 16 translations.
Hare Krishna. Text 15. Translation. The creation of the material world begins with the five elements, and thus everything, including the body of a man or a woman, is created of these elements. By the sexual life of man and woman, the number of men and women in this material world is further increased. Text 16. Manu continued, my dear King Dhruva, it is simply by the illusory material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and by the interaction of the three modes of material nature that creation, maintenance, and annihilation take place. But Prabhuji?
No. So,
Purport.
hold on. So, Manu is describing that the body is just made out of the elements. But still, the question remains that how does creation, maintenance, destructions of body takes place? Hence, in verse number 17, Manu will describe that Lord is the cause, although Lord is aloof. Well, then further question becomes that if Lord is aloof, then how is everything happening? The answer we'll read soon is that everything is happening by Lord's inconceivable energies. Abhishek Prabhu, 1718 translation.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Text 17. My dear Dhruva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. He is the remote cause of the creation of this material cosmic manifestation. When he gives the impetus, many other causes and effects are produced, and thus the whole universe moves, just as iron moves by the integrated force of a magnet. Text 18. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his inconceivable supreme energy, time, causes the interaction of three modes of material nature, and thus varieties of energy become manifest. It appears that he is acting, but he is not the actor. He is killing, but he is not the killer. Thus, it is understood that only by his inconceivable power is everything happening.
So, in the purport, we'll soon read an analogy is explained of the potter. The analogy is to explain how material energy works, that it cannot be explained. So we'll soon read where it will say that how the material forces working cannot be explained just on the basis of chemical reaction. Example that the potter and potter's wheel is given. The potter's wheel rotates and several varieties of earthen pots come out. So there are many causes for the earthen pots, but the original cause is the potter who sets a force on the wheel. That force comes from his superintendence. So let's read verse 17 purport to understand that it is very difficult to understand how material energy works. Abhishek Prabhu, 17 purport.
Yes, Suji. Text 17 purpose. How the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead works within this material world is explained in this verse. Everything is happening by the energy of the Supreme Lord. The atheistic philosophers who do not agree to accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the original cause of creation, think that the material world moves by the action and reaction of different material elements. A simple example of the interaction of elements occurs when we mix soda and acid, and the movement of effervescence is produced. But one cannot produce life by such interaction of chemicals. There are 84 lakh different species of life with different wishes and different actions. How the material force is working cannot be explained just on the basis of chemical reaction. A suitable example in this connection is that of the potter and the potter's wheel. The potter's wheel rotates and several varieties of earthen pots come out. There are many causes for the earthen pots, but the original cause is the potter, who sets a force on the wheel. That force comes by his superintendence. The same idea is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Behind all material action and reaction, there is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna says that everything depends on his energy, and yet he is not everywhere. The pot is produced under certain conditions of action and reaction of material energy, but the potter is not in the pot. In a similar way, the material creation is set up by the Lord, but he remains aloof. As stated in the Vedas, he simply glanced over it and the agitation of matter immediately began. In Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that the Lord impregnates the material energy with the part and parcel jivas, and thus the different forms and different activities immediately ensue. Because of the different desires and karmic activities of the jiva soul, different type of bodies in different species are produced. In Darwin's theory, there is no acceptance of the living entity as spirit soul, and therefore his explanation of evolution is incomplete. Varieties of phenomena occur within this universe on account of actions and reactions of the three material modes, but the original creator or the cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is mentioned here as Nimitta Matram, the remote cause. He simply pushes the wheel with his energy. According to Mayavadi philosophers, the Supreme Brahman has transformed himself into many varieties of forms, but this is not the fact. He is always transcendental to the actions and reactions of the material gunas, although he is the cause of all causes. Lord Brahma therefore says in Brahma Samhita 5.1, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvkarana Karanam. There are many causes and effects, but the original cause is Shri Krishna.
Original cause is Sri Krishna. And we read the analogy of the potter and his potter's wheel. To understand that how material energy works is very difficult to understand. Questions, comments, realizations? So Manu will continue next. Manu will explain that Lord as time is neutral. It is karma as the cause of everyone's happiness and distress. Although different philosophers argue about karma. Shalini, 19 to 21 translations.
Hare Krishna. Text 19. My dear Dhruva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is ever existing, but in the form of time. He is the killer of everything. He has no beginning, although he is the beginning of everything, nor is he ever exhaustible, although everything is exhausted in due course of time. The living entities are created through the agency of the Father and killed through the agency of death, but he is perpetually free of birth and death. Text 20. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his feature of eternal time, is present in the material world and is neutral towards everyone. No one is his ally and no one is his enemy. Within the jurisdiction of the time element, everyone enjoys or suffers the result of his own karma or fruitive activities. As when the wind blows, small particles of dust fly in the air, so, according to one's particular karma, one suffers or enjoys material life. Text 21. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is all powerful and he awards the results of one's fruitive activities. Thus, although one living entity's duration of life is very small, whereas that of another is very great, he is always in his transcendental position, and there is no question of lessening or increasing his duration of life. Hare Krishna.
All right, questions, comments, realizations on the time factor?
Probably, I seek clarification. Although one living entity's duration of life is very small, whereas that of another is very great. I want you to kindly enlighten us.
Yeah. Manu is explaining that time is neutral, means Lord is neutral. Lord is simply awarding the results of one's rotative activities. So based on karma, somebody has a very long life, and based on karma, somebody has a very short life. So therefore, if somebody is killed or dies at an early age, Lord or time is not the cause. This the karma is the cause. And that's what he's saying, that time is neutral. Somebody is having a short life based on karma, well, he will die early at a young age. Okay.
This part I seek your clarification. What is the other life?
Other life? I didn't understand your question.
No. Although one's living in duration of life is very small, whereas that of another means another person, correct? Or
Yeah,
not?
yeah, another person. So here, the Manu is saying that one person's life is short based on his karma, he's bound to die early. Versus another person's life is long because he has to exhaust all that karma given to him. So it's talking about comparing two different individuals.
Got it. Thank you.
Shalini.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, I mean, we being in this process of, connection, Krishna's mercy and getting the connection of scriptures, we are able to understand, but very difficult for me to even try to explain to relatives. And, if something happens, uh, misfortune or, some death happens at a younger age or something, very difficult for us to explain to them. They still blame God, Prabhu.
You are correct that we have discussed this in Bhagavad Gita 4.16, 17, 18, that when somebody dies in the family, the soul leaves the body, at that time, do not run a truckload of philosophy on anyone. At that time, just stay silent. And use 4.17 Bhagavad Gita, it should be 4.17, where Krishna has said that it is very difficult to understand how karma works. So if you read 4.17, Krishna says the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. So when somebody dies in the family, the other family member, the living family member will generally be angry. At that time, you stay silent. You learn to tolerate. So I have given, if you go back and listen to the Bhagavad Gita lecture, I have given two examples for this karma. So one example is that there was some natural calamity. So both these examples are actual real life examples. One example is that in India, back many years, many decades ago, in one village, there was some natural calamity and almost the entire village was destroyed. And few devotees from ISKCON went there and gave a lecture on karma, basically chastising everybody that why are you crying? This is your karma. And everybody was stunned. I mean, the village was completely destroyed. They did not have food, shelter, anything. And these ISKCON devotees, not having any understanding of the times and circumstance, was giving a truckload of philosophy, saying this is your karma. So it is a fact that it is their karma, but this is not the right time to speak about that truckload of philosophy. The next day, some Christian missionaries came to the same village. They brought food, shelter, some clothing, some blanket. They basically gave them basic necessities that were required at the time because the entire village was destroyed because of that natural calamity. The result was majority of the village, more than 90-95% of the village, converted into Christianity. So what was the point of that ISKCON devotee coming and doing that preaching of karma? It was useless because it didn't serve the purpose. The other example, there was a devotee who left the body early at a very young age. And the parents were devastated. So one of the brahmachari happened to be around the parents, and the parents were devastated, crying, and just saying, what is this? How do we understand? The brahmachari said absolutely nothing. He just tolerated. So we have discussed this point in Bhagavad Gita 4.16, 17, 18, as well as we have discussed in 2.13, that preaching you have to do according to time, place, and circumstance. When somebody is going through a difficult phase of losing a loving member, yes, it is according to karma, what we just read in Srimad Bhagavatam, this verse 21, 19 to 21, chapter 11. Yes, it is karma, no doubt about it. But this is not the time to speak philosophy. Just as somebody has a fracture, you don't ask the fractured person to run a 100-meter race. Or even when the cast is taken out on that day, you don't ask the person to start running or walking normally. No, there is a healing process. There is a healing time. After he is healed, he will start running a 100-meter race or walk and run normally. Similarly, emotional hurtfulness is also hurting. So you cannot expect somebody who is emotionally hurt to run a truckload of philosophy on them to ask them to frisk away their misery. No, we have a relationship at the bodily level, and they have to go through that grieving process. Then you can talk philosophy later on, not immediately. Shalini, everybody, does that help?
Yes, Prabhu. But Prabhu, even later on, after a long time also, the grieving continues and they don't want to come. So then we just let it be, no, Prabhu.
Yeah, so that is a problem. So we have to also discuss this difference between grieving and lamentation. That grieving is required, grieving is healthy. Lamentation is that somebody is lamenting for days, months, years, decades, that is not healthy, and that doesn't serve the purpose of anything. That one has to avoid. But if somebody is in that lamentation stage, you can't really do anything except to pray to the Lord to somehow help them. You can give them prasad. But if somebody is in that lamentation mode, yes, you can explain briefly after, say, a certain length of time. But beyond a point, you have to judge how much of a help the philosophy will be.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, here there is a philosophy point that if not philosophy but a criticization that uh, like if if the higher authority is also bound to give results based on our karma, then it also it is then karma is higher cause. Like like so how do we understand that point from what we discuss right now, that it is not correct?
So you read verse number 22, it actually explains the same point, that philosophers differ on their opinion about karma. Now we have discussed this in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapter 17 and 18, where Dharma and earth are hurt by Kali, that their legs are cut, and Parikshit Maharaj wanted a statement from Dharma and earth that who hurt you. So Dharma, this is Dharma personified, he is teaching us. Dharma says, I don't know. I mean, Kali is standing right there. Dharma knows Kali is the one who cut down the legs. So Dharma says, I don't know. What is the cause of my misery? Is it my mind? Is it nature? Is it demigods? Is it my karma? It's very difficult to understand. And for each of these points, Dharma gives Vaishnava understanding that all these points may appear to be valid, but Vaishnava understanding is that I am suffering because of my karma. And actually, the merciful Lord has minimized the negative effect, because actually I have done a lot of more bad things. I'm only getting a small dose of my bad karma. And therefore, Dharma does not give a statement to Parikshit Maharaj at all, saying, I don't know who or what is the cause. And then he also goes on to explain that Supreme Lord is the ultimate cause, which we have also discussed in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 5 as well as chapter 18, that there are 5 causes for any endeavor or any activity to happen in the material world. And Supreme Lord's sanction is the most important. So yes, karma definitely plays a role. But then Supreme Lord's sanction for everything that's happening in the world is also required. Abhishek Prabhu.
So Prabhuji, when we say that Lord is neutral in discharging this effect of karma, so like how does his authority become higher?
I already said at the start of this set of verses that these verses will seem to be going in circles, and that's exactly what's happening. So yes, he is neutral. Udasina vatasina. That he is like a judge. He is awarding the results, good and bad, based on karma. Still, The answer is that for all activities, 5 causes have to happen simultaneously, of which Lord's sanction is the most important. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, the analogy is given that a person in an hospital around the best of doctors, the hospital having the best of facilities, is not able to save a patient. And simultaneously, in another case, in a hopeless situation that the doctors have said, well, there is no possibility of this person surviving, and they don't even give any medication. They're saying, what's the point? And still the person goes on to live. I'll give you a practical example, live example of this. When I was very, very young, just about finishing college, or just I had finished college and I had started working, my immediate colleague, I used to sit next to him. His uncle, I can't remember the relationship, his uncle or one of his relative was in the hospital for a long time and nothing was working. They were giving everything. And then the doctors gave up saying, well, there's nothing can be done. And they removed like the oxygen mask and all the intravenous injections and everything. They removed everything. They say he's not responding to any medication. And you just have to wait for him to leave the body. And after all these things were removed from the patient's body, in his state of coma, the person is in coma, he started urinating. He urinated so much in his coma state. He just urinated for a very long time, and he woke up. I'm not joking. This is an actual situation. And he woke up. So how is that possible? That was a complete hopeless situation. And he just woke up. Why? Because the Lord's sanction is the ultimate cause. Abhishek Prabhu and everybody.
Do we not
Prabhu,
see this as
Abhishek Prabhu, go ahead.
his karma, like Lord's
It is,
sanction?
is one of the factor is karma. Lord's sanction is the most important. I'm not denying karma is not important. It is important.
Okay. Thank you.
Prabhuji, what you narrated, 100% I agree because I had such an experience in life. If you permit me, I will narrate in
Yeah, go
1
ahead.
minute.
Yeah.
A 70-year diabetic asthmatic, he self-perceived and did not take any sugar or energetic product with like sugar, coffee, tea, etc. Self-imposed restrictions. But what happened? He became comatose, and his family doctor, MBBS doctor, he was brought, and he said, "Call all relatives. He is going to not survive. No use of taking to the hospital." I had the privilege of bringing a specialist to a close friend. He immediately came and he said he's in coma. We will give him intravenous glucose, and he gave him 225 ml. Believe me, he got up and asked, why all of you are crowded around me? Why? And he survived for another 7 years.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so Lord's cause is the most important. And actually, the next set of verses from 22nd. So verse number 22 talks about the different opinions of philosophers on karma. And then verse 23 to 26 actually talks about exactly what we discussed and exactly what Abhishek Prabhu is saying. That all these philosophers, they ignore the Lord's sanction. What we just discussed is actually there in verses 22 to 26, which we'll just read. Shalini first.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Just one more clarification, Prabhu. So when somebody is suffering and the person says that the suffering is less because of God's hand. So Is it different from a devotee or non-devotee, a materialistic person, or?
So who says that suffering is less because of God's mercy is for a devotee, for a Vaishnava to say that, because they understand that it is the Lord's sanction. For a materialistic person, they will not say that. They don't know the Lord. They don't know all these philosophy.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Uncle will read verse number 22 about the different opinions of philosophers. So verses 22 to 26 talk about exactly the point Abhishek Prabhu just raised. And we'll read and discuss and come back to Abhishek Prabhu if it doesn't resolve the situation. Uncle, 22?
Only translation, bro.
Correct.
The differentiation among the varieties of life and their suffering and enjoyment is explained by some to be the result of karma. Others say it is due to nature, others due to time, others due to faith, and still others say that it is due to desire.
Right. So in the purport also, Prabhupada expands this point that there are different philosophers who are giving different philosophies as to what is the cause of suffering and enjoyment. And all these philosophers, they are ignorant of the Lord, who is the root cause of everything, because these philosophers do not understand the Lord's plan. And this is what Manu will explain in the next verses 23 to 26, where Manu says that no one understands the Lord's plan. Yakshas are not the killers or your brother, because Lord is the cause of birth and death, although Lord is unaffected. So I already stated at the very start of our discussion that these verses will seem to go in circles. So let's read, Uncle will read 23 to 26 translation and we'll pause to discuss.
'22 translation. There are different types of philosophers. Mimamsakas, atheists, astronomers, sexualists.
Uncle, 23 to 26 translation.
I'm sorry. 23 translation. The absolute truth, transcendence, is never subject to the understanding of imperfect sensory endeavor, nor is he subject to direct experience. He is a master of varieties of energies, like the full material energy, and no one can understand his plans or actions. Therefore, it should be concluded that although he is the original cause of all causes, no one can know him by mental speculation. Text 24. Translation. My dear son, those yakshas who are descendants of Kuvera are not actually the killers of your brother. The birth and death of every living entity are caused by the Supreme, who is currently the cause of all causes. Text 25 translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead creates this material world, maintains it, and annihilates it. It is due to course of time. But because he is transcendental to such activities, he is never affected by ego in such action or by the modes of material nature. Text 26. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the super soul of all living entities. He is the controller and maintainer of everyone, though the agency of his external energy. He creates, maintains, and annihilates everyone. Hare Krishna.
So in verse number 23 purport, Prabhupada gives the analogy of Dr. Frog to explain these mental speculators. That the mental speculator may be called Dr. Frog. That Prabhupada narrates the story that a frog sitting in a 3-foot well wanted to calculate the length and breadth of an ocean on the basis of his knowledge of his own well. But it was impossible task for this Dr. Frog. A person may be a great academic person, a scholar or a professor, but he cannot speculate and expect to understand the absolute truth, or because his senses are limited. So, yes, karma plays a role, and all these philosophers who gave various opinions in verse number 22, is karma the cause? Is nature the cause? Is time the cause? Is Daivam the cause? Is my desire the cause? What exactly is the cause of my suffering and enjoyment? They don't know. So all these philosophers are giving these individual reasons, but they all ignore the Lord's plan. These are like the mental speculators, the analogy of the Dr. Frog, that they cannot understand. I will pause here. Abhishek Prabhu, does that help you?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Everybody on the same page, although I still think verses are still going in circles.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, for what? The verses are going in circles.
No, it is God's plan.
All right. Okay. So upon hearing Manu's instruction, Dhruv Maharaj says that, okay, I am enlightened by you. Still, I cannot give up my ego. Now, Dhruv Maharaj is already liberated because Dhruv Maharaj saw the Lord at the age of 5. But Dhruv Maharaj right now is temporarily afflicted by the illusory bodily concept of life due to his brother's death. Hence, in the last part of this chapter 11, Manu will instruct Dhruv Maharaj to give up anger and to surrender to the Lord. And Dhruv Maharaj should not continue the material conception of I, me, mine. So this is part 4, verses 27 to 35. Title is Give Up Anger and Surrender unto the Lord. These verses are straightforward, or very important verses, but they are pretty straightforward verses. Mother Jija will read 27 to 30 translations.
Text 27. Translation. My dear boy Dhruva, please surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate goal of the progress of the world. Everyone, including the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, is working under his control, just as a bull prompted by a rope in its nose is controlled by its owner. Text 28. Translation. My dear Dhruva, at the age of only 5 years, you were very grievously affected by the words of your mother's co-wife, and you very boldly gave up the protection of your mother and went to the forest to engage in the yogic process for realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a result of this, you have already achieved the topmost position in all the 3 worlds. Text 29. My dear Dhruva, please therefore turn your attention to the Supreme Person who is infallible Brahman. Face the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your original position, and thus, by self realization, you will find this material differentiation to be merely flickering. Text 30. Thus, regaining your natural position and rendering service unto the Supreme Lord, who is all powerful, reservoir of all pleasure, and who lives in all living entities as the super soul, you will very soon forget the illusionary understanding of I and my. Hare Krishna.
And Chandra Aunty will finish reading 31 to 35 translations, and Manu is again emphasizing the point to give up anger.
Hare Krishna, text 31, translation. My dear king, just consider what I have said to you, which will act as medicinal treatment upon disease. Control your anger, for anger is the foremost enemy on the path of spiritual realization. I wish all good fortune for you. Please follow my instruction. 632. A person who desires liberation from this material world should not fall under the control of anger, because when bewildered by anger, one becomes a source of dread of all others. Text 33, translation. My dear Dhruva, you thought that the Yakshas killed your brother, and therefore you have killed great numbers of them. But by this action, you have agitated the mind of Lord Shiva's brother, Kuvera, who is the treasurer of the demigods. Please note that your actions have been very disrespectful to Kuvera and Lord Shiva. 34. Translation. For this reason, my son, you should immediately pacify Kuvera with gentle words and prayers, and thus his wrath may not affect our family. Text 35. Translation. Thus, Swayambhuva Manu, after giving instructions to Dhruva Maharaj, his grandson, received respectful obeisances from him. Then Lord Manu and the great sages went back to their respective homes. Hare Krishna.
So Swayambhuva Manu is again emphasizing to give up anger, and Swayambhuva Manu asked Dhruva Maharaj to pacify or to ask forgiveness from Kuvera, because Kuvera is negatively affected by the killing of all the yakshas. So in the next chapter, the first part, that's exactly what Dhruva will do to pacify Kuvera and get benediction from Kuvera. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Is this whole incident of killing of Dhruva Maharaj brothers, when Lord was it a result of Dhruva Maharaj's austerity in childhood, or Lord just predicted that this is going to happen in future, irrespective of Dhruva Maharaj's austerity?
Yeah, it's irrespective of Dhruva Maharaj's austerity. It's a fact that was going to happen, which the Lord predicted or said. This is what is going to happen in near future.
So, like, I'm just asking that Dhruv Maharaj may not be, like, it doesn't, the blame doesn't go to him in some sense that he prayed and so this happened.
There's nothing to do with Dhruv Maharaj's austerity.
Thank you.
Everybody on the same page?
Yes, Prabhu.
Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 11th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruv Maharaj to stop fighting. We'll now briefly discuss chapter 12. So chapter 12 is titled Dhruv Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead, and chapter 12 is divided into 6 parts. Part 1 is verses 1 to 9, which we'll cover today. Title is Kuvera's Instructions and Benedictions to Dhruva. Part 2, verses 10 to 16, Dhruva's glorious rule and renunciation. Part 3, verses 17 to 35, Dhruv Maharaj ascends to Dhruva Loka. Part 4 is verses 36 to 40, Glories of Dhruva Loka. Part 5 is verses 41 to 43, Srila Narad Muni glorifies Dhruva at the Pracheta's sacrifice. Part 6, verses 44 to 52, Phala Shruti. So we'll discuss this part 1, verses 1 to 9, where title is Kuvera's Instructions and Benedictions to Dhruva. So seeing Dhruva Maharaj's anger now subsided, Kuvera appears and speaks to Dhruva Maharaj. Kuvera instructs Dhruva Maharaj that time causes creation and destruction, plus the bodily concept of I, me, mine causes repeated birth and death. Now, Kuvera is not a pure devotee. Kuvera is treasurer of demigods, and Kuvera is very, very rich. And Kuvera asks Dhruva Maharaj to ask for a benediction. So understanding, so I have a question for you all of you try to answer right now. That understanding that Kuvera is not a pure devotee, Kuvera is treasurer of demigods, Kuvera is very, very rich, and he is asking Dhruva Maharaj to ask for benediction. So if it was you, what benediction will you ask from such a Kuvera? Everybody, please try to answer.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Okay.
So the question here he is asking Dhruv Maharaj to ask for a benediction from Kuvera.
Mhm.
Oh.
Kuvera is asking Dhruva Maharaj that ask a benediction from me. So Kuvera is not a pure devotee. Kuvera is very, very rich. He is treasurer of demigods. If it was you, what benediction will you ask from Kuvera? If Kuvera comes in front of you and says, ask a benediction, what benediction will you ask?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, I will ask him to become a devotee of the Lord.
All right.
Prabhuji, I will ask the benediction to continue to be a Vaishnava.
Okay. Rest of you, quickly, please.
To be at the feet of the Lord, nothing else than that.
Okay. Mother Jija, Abhishek Prabhu.
I'll ask him how did you get this position?
Okay. Mother Jija, Abhishek Prabhu.
So I'm little confused here because you mentioned many times that Kuvera is not a pure devotee. So whether like do we ask him about devotion or not?
Yeah, so I stated a fact for a very important reason. So what will you ask?
From a materialistic point of view, if we go to a rich person, we ask for wealth because he is a rich person. That's what he can give.
All right. Is that what you will ask?
I'm not saying that I'll ask that, but it's just a general
All right.
common sense.
All right. Mother Jija.
Prabhuji, I agree with Abhishek Prabhu. If not for me, I want security for my grandchildren, Prabhuji, frankly
All right.
speaking.
All right. So I will read these verses right now. So many of you answered that you will ask for to be a devotee or be at the lotus feet or Vaishnava, etc. And this is what Dhruv Maharaj also asked. Dhruv Maharaj asks for unflinching faith and remembrance of Supreme Lord. So we'll read and understand as to why is Dhruv Maharaj asking benediction from Kuvera. Let's read and we'll understand very shortly. Chandran Prabhu, verse 1 and 2 translation.
Hare Krishna. Text 1, translation. The great sage Maitreya said, "My dear Vidura, Dhruva Maharaja's anger subsided, and he completely ceased killing yakshas. When Kuvera, the most blessed master of the treasury, learned this news, he appeared before Dhruva. While being worshipped by yakshas, kinnaras, and charanas, he spoke to Dhruva Maharaja, who stood before him with folded hands." Translation 2. The master of the treasury, Kuvera, said, "O sinless son of Kshatriya, I am very glad to know that under the instruction of your grandfather, you have given up your enmity. Although it is very difficult to avoid, I am very pleased with you." Hare Krishna.
So the base was set straightforward verses. Now Kuvera assures Dhruv Maharaj that time is the cause of creation and destruction, because Dhruv Maharaj was thinking that Dhruv Maharaj has just killed so many yakshas. Shalini, verse 3, translation and purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 3, translation. Actually, you have not killed the yakshas, nor have they killed your brother. For the ultimate cause of generation and annihilation is the eternal time feature of the Supreme Lord. Purport. When the master of the treasury addressed him as sinless, Dhruv Maharaj, considering himself responsible for killing so many yakshas, might have thought himself otherwise. Kuvera, however, assured him that factually he had not killed any of the yakshas, therefore he was not at all sinful. He did the duty as a king, as it is ordered by the laws of nature. Nor should you think that your brother was killed by the yakshas, said Kuvera. He died or was killed in due course of time by the laws of nature. Eternal time, one of the features of the Lord, is ultimately responsible for annihilation and generation. You are not responsible for such actions. Hare Krishna.
Right, so Kuvera gives philosophical understanding, which we read in the previous chapter. Kuvera says that whosoever dies in due course of time by the laws of nature. Mother Jija will read verse 4, translation and purport, where Kuvera will explain that the bodily conception of I, me, mine causes repeated birth and death.
Text 4. Misidentification of oneself and others as I and you on the basis of the bodily concept of life is a product of ignorance. This bodily concept is the cause of repeated births and death, and it makes us go on continuously in material existence. Purport, Prabhuji?
Yeah, for purport.
Purport. The concept of I and you, aham, tvam, as separate from each other is due to our forgetfulness of our eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Person, Krishna, is the central point, and all of us are his parts and parcels, just as hands and legs are parts and parcels of the whole body. When we actually come to this understanding of being eternally related to the Supreme Lord, this distinction, which is based on the bodily concept of life, cannot exist. The same example can be cited herewith. The hand is the hand and the leg is the leg. But when both of them engage in the service of the whole body, there is no such distinction as hands and legs, for all of them belong to the whole body, and all the parts working together constitute the whole body. Similarly, when the living entities are in Krishna consciousness, there is no such distinction as I and you, because everyone is engaged in the service of the Lord. Since the Lord is absolute, the services are also absolute, even though the hand is working one way and the leg is working in another way. Since the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are all one. This is not to be confused with the statement by the Mayavadi philosopher that everything is one. Real knowledge is that hand is hand, leg is leg, body is body, and yet all together they are one. As soon as the living entity thinks that he is independent, his conditional material existence begins. This conception of independent existence is therefore like a dream. One has to be in Krishna consciousness, his original position. Then he can be freed from material bondage. Hare Krishna.
I, me, mine is like a dream and is product of ignorance and misconceived intelligence, resulting in repeated birth and death. So Kuvera's instruction to Dhruv Maharaj is to worship the Lord. Therefore, in verses 5 and 6, Kuvera describes the features of the Lord and asks Dhruv Maharaj to ask for a benediction. Mother Chandra Aunty, 5 to 7 translations, they are straightforward verses.
Text 5, translation. My dear Dhruva, come forward. May the Lord always grace you with good fortune. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond our sensory perceptions, is the super soul of all living entities, and thus all entities are one. Without this distinction, begin therefore to render service unto the transcendental form of the Lord, who is ultimate shelter of all living entities. Text 6. Translation. Engage yourself fully, therefore, in the devotional service of the Lord, for only He can deliver us from this entanglement of materialistic existence. Although the Lord is attached to His material potency, He is aloof from her activities. Everything in this material world is happening by the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 7. Translation. My dear Dhruva Maharaj, son of Maharaja Uttanapada, we have heard that you are constantly engaged in transcendental loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known for his lotus navel. You are therefore worthy to take all benedictions from us. Please, therefore, ask without hesitation whatever benediction you want from me. Hare Krishna.
So Kuvera describes the features of the Lord and then asks Dhruva to ask for benediction. And now comes Dhruva Maharaj's response that Dhruva Maharaj asks for unflinching faith and remembrance of the Supreme Lord. Uncle will read verse 8, translation and purport. Fast pace.
The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear, when thus asked to accept the benediction from Kuvera, the Yaksha Raja, king of Yakshas, Dhruva Maharaja, that most elevated pure devotee who was an intelligent and thoughtful king, begged that he might have an unflinching faith in and remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For thus, a person can cross over the ocean of nations very easily, although it is very difficult for others to cross. Purport. According to the opinion of the expert followers of Vedic rites, there are different types of benedictions in terms of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. These four principles are known as Chaturvargas. Of all the Chaturvargas, the benediction of liberation is considered to be the highest in the material world. To be enabled to cross over material nations is known as the highest Purushartha, or benediction for the human being. But Dhruva Maharaja wanted a benediction which surpasses even the highest Purushartha, liberation. He wanted the benediction that he might constantly remember the lotus feet of the Lord. This stage of life is called Panchama Purushartha. When a devotee comes to platform Panchama Purushartha, simply engaging in devotional service to the Lord, the fourth Purushartha, liberation, becomes very insignificant in his eyes. Srila Prabhu Vadananda Saraswati has stated in this connection that for a devotee, liberation is a health condition of life. As far as sense gratification, which is available in the heavenly planets, the devotee considers to be a willow the wisp having no value of life. Yogis endeavor to control the senses, but for a devotee, controlling the senses is no difficulty at all. The senses are compared to serpents, but for a devotee, serpents' poison teeth are broken. Thus, Srila Prabhupada Saraswati has analyzed all kinds of benedictions available in this world, and he has clearly declared that for a pure devotee, they are all of no significance. Dhruva Maharaja was also Mahabhagavata, the first class pure devotee, and his intelligence was very great, Mahamati. Unless one is very intelligent, one cannot take devotional service or Krishna consciousness. Naturally, anyone who is a first class devotee must be a first class intelligent person, and therefore not interested in any kind of benediction. With this material world, Dhruva Maharaja was offered a benediction by the king of the king, Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, whose only business is to supply immense riches to persons with the materialistic world, is described as the king of kings because unless one is blessed by Kuvera, one cannot become a king. The king of kings personally offered Dhruva Maharaja any amount of riches, but he declined to accept them. Therefore, he is described as Mahamati, very thoughtful or highly intellectual. Hare Krishna.
So although the treasurer of demigods Kuvera could have offered immense riches to Dhruv Maharaj did not ask for such material benediction, knowing that any material benediction is insignificant. Rather, Dhruv Maharaj asked for Pancham Purusharth, the constant remembrance of the Supreme Lord. So, four Purusharth are Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But Dhruv Maharaj is asking for the Pancham Purusharth, fifth Purusharth, which is the constant remembrance of the Supreme Lord, because for a pure devotee, liberation is insignificant. Now, Kuvera is not a pure devotee. Simultaneously, Dhruv Maharaj is more spiritually advanced than Kuvera. Still, Dhruv Maharaj asked from Kuvera unflinching remembrance of the Lord because of Manu's words in previous chapter 11, verse number 34, where Manu said that the wrath of great personalities may affect our family. So Kuvera's displeasure might act as an obstacle for Krishna Smaran, means to remember Krishna. Therefore, Dhruv Maharaj's request to Kuvera will naturally remove any lingering resentment that Kuvera may have. Everybody with me? Questions, comments, realizations? Everybody understands?
When Kuvera is not a devotee,
Yeah.
how will he appreciate this benediction requested by Dhruva Maharaj?
So I didn't say Kuvera is not a devotee. I say Kuvera is not a pure devotee, right? Everybody is a devotee.
Got it.
Right? So he still understands. If Kuvera was not a devotee, how would we be able to describe the Lord's features in verse 5 and 6 that we just read? Kuvera is a devotee, just not at the pure devotee level like where Dhruv Maharaj is. Everybody on the same page in terms of the benediction, the reason for the benediction that Dhruv Maharaj asked, even though Kuvera is not a pure devotee. All right. Verse number 9, purport has a very important point that many times a question is asked whether devotees should ask benediction from demigod. So here, Dhruv Maharaj is a pure devotee and Kuvera is in the category of a demigod. So should we be asking benedictions from demigods? So a very important point explained in verse number 9 purport. Abhishek Prabhu, 9 translation and purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 9, translation. The son of Idavida, Lord Kuvera, was very pleased, and happily he gave Dhruv Maharaj the benediction he wanted. Thereafter, he disappeared from Dhruva's presence, and Dhruva Maharaj returned to his capital city. Purport. Kuvera, who is known as the son of Idavida, was very pleased with Dhruva Maharaj because he did not ask him for anything materially enjoyable. Kuvera is one of the demigods, so one may put forward the argument, why did Dhruva Maharaj take a benediction from a demigod? The answer is that for a Vaishnava there is no objection to taking a benediction from a demigod if it is favorable for advancing Krishna consciousness. The gopis, for example, worshipped Katyayani, a demigoddess, but the only benediction they wanted from the goddesses was to have Krishna as their husband. A Vaishnava is not interested in asking any benediction from the demigods, nor is he interested in asking benediction from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said in Bhagavatam that liberation can be offered by the Supreme Person, but even if a pure devotee is offered liberation by the Supreme Lord, he refuses to accept it. Dhruv Maharaj did not ask Kuvera for transference to the spiritual world, which is called liberation. He simply asked that wherever he would remain, whether in the spiritual or material world, he would always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A Vaishnava is always respectful to everyone. So when Kuvera offered him a benediction, he did not refuse it, but he wanted something which would be favorable to his advancement in Krishna consciousness.
The reason that Dhruv Maharaj asked a benediction that is favorable to advancing in bhakti. So in terms of asking benediction from demigod, example, ask Ganesh to remove hindrances on the path of spirituality. And do not ask benediction to Ganesh like materialistic people wanting to remove material hindrances. Similarly, ask Durga Devi to make you and your family as a great devotee like how Durga Devi is. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna, Vin. Really, like, just a side, like, how do we, here we see that Kuvera is very, because he is a devotee and he doesn't blame Dhruv Maharaj. But like in our practical things, if we have done something wrong or knowingly or unknowingly, and even if we want to make an apology, it may not always happen that the other person is uh, very, like they may not behave like the way Kuvera did. So what should be our course of action then?
So understand that Srimad Bhagavatam examples are extreme examples to teach us a point. So these are giving us the ideal scenario, right? Where Dhruv Maharaj has recognized his mistake and is repenting, as well as Kuvera is kind of neutral here. In theory, Kuvera could have also fought back or cursed or whatever. But Kuvera being a devotee, therefore, not only Kuvera did not curse or did anything wrong, Kuvera actually goes on to give positive instruction and give positive benediction. So we have to understand according to time, place, and circumstances that if you meet a devotee, if you have done something wrong, you meet a devotee, your actions will be that ask for forgiveness to the devotee. Versus if you meet a materialistic person who is fighting back or even may cause hurt to you, where your action will not be identical to what you did with a devotee. Right? So it depends on time, place, and circumstances in terms of what you do and what you don't do. Abhishek Prabhu.
Thank you, Praveen.
So very important point we read in verse number 9 purport that why did Dhruv Maharaj take a benediction from demigod? And Prabhupada explained that for a Vaishnava there is no objection to taking a benediction from demigod as long as it is favorable for advancing in Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada gives the example of gopis who worship Katyayani, a demigoddess, but the only benediction they wanted from the goddess Katyayani was to have Krishna as their husband. A Vaishnava is not interested in asking for benediction from demigods, nor is he interested to ask benediction from even the Lord. And liberation can be offered by Supreme Person, but even if a pure devotee is offered liberation, by Supreme Lord. He refuses to accept if service is not there. So Dhruva Maharaj did not ask Kuvera for liberation. He simply asked that wherever I am, whether in the spiritual world or in the material world, give the benediction to me, to Dhruva Maharaj, that I, Dhruva Maharaj, should always remember the Supreme Lord. Shalini?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, then, I mean, why should anyone even approach, if it's for advancing in Krishna consciousness, why should we even ask a demigod, Prabhu, instead of approaching the Lord directly?
You are correct, but do understand that demigods do have the ability to give you certain benedictions, just as, say, before the Kurukshetra war, Arjuna got Divya Astra from demigods. So demigods do have certain special powers. But Arjuna did not worship the demigods, say Shiva or Indra, to go to heaven. No, rather he said, I am worshipping you so that you can give me these Divya Astras, because I have to fight a great war for Krishna's service, to serve Krishna. Therefore, I need those weapons so that I can serve Krishna properly. Shalini?
Yes, Prabhu. But for us, it's better. We can directly approach, of course, through the spiritual master Prabhupada and all. We can approach Lord Krishna instead of going to demigods to ask them to engage in the service of Krishna.
Yeah, you are correct. All right, you have many spiritual endeavor questions. Please write down. Question number 1. Why did Swayambhuva Manu preach to Dhruva to stop fighting? Comes from chapter 11, verse 27. Second, what is the essence of Manu and Srila Prabhupada's instructions about anger? Comes from chapter 11, verse 31. Third is an analogy from chapter 11, verse 17. How the material force is working cannot be explained just on the basis of chemical reaction. A suitable example in this connection is that of the potter and potter's wheel. The potter's wheel rotates and several varieties of earthen pots come out. There are many causes for the earthen pot, but the original cause is the potter, who sets a force on the wheel. That force comes by his superintendence. Number 4, What benediction did Dhruva ask from Kuvera? Comes from chapter 12, verse number 8. Number 5. Why did Dhruva Maharaj take benediction from a demigod? Comes from 12.9 or chapter 12, verse 9. And last, for our next class, read rest of chapter 12 if you have not already read it. So the schedule is that at our next class on 9th of August, we will finish chapter 12 and this unit number 16. Then on 16th of August, you all will do your presentations for this unit. We may have to start a little bit early so that we can finish the unit presentation in one class. And then on 23rd of August, we will not have our class because my spiritual master, His Grace Vaishya Das Adhikari, is going to be in Toronto. All of you who are in and around Toronto should try to attend whatever classes are possible for you. There is going to be some training directly by my spiritual master on book distribution. So try to attend. Questions, comments, realizations?
Elaborate this unit, you mean?
Yeah, we'll finish this unit at our next class, and then following class you will do the presentations for this unit.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we are just past 9:15 Toronto time. We'll stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna, thank you.